Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is Sunday. It's May 1st. I can't believe we're getting close to halfway done through this year. TJ Pinger, Richie Barnes, back with you guys again for hopefully a little bit quicker of an episode. We say that every week, and then it just never ends up happening. But we'll see what happens today. Richie, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. I'm recovering. Had a long weekend down in South Florida, down in the 561. Shout out Silk. But back home now and ready to talk some Florida State.
Let's get after it. So, good stuff. Double Fries, No Slaw, brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both their locations at 1818 West Tennessee Street and 2550 North Monroe. Make sure to tell them that Double Fries, No Slaw sent you. Get your gut box that way. You know, one day I'd like to go there and try like a chicken sandwich or something, but I don't know. I'm always, they have chicken sandwiches and stuff there. Like, I know that, has anybody ever gotten that? Have you ever gotten it? I
No,
want to try it.
if they had an Orlando location, I would definitely, try some different items. But if I feel like I'm going to Tallahassee, I'm going to Guthrie's, I have to get the gut box. There's no going off script at that point.
What's hard is they have a location in like South Tampa, but it is legitimately over an hour from me. Like, it would be just as easy to get to Orlando for like Shake Shack. Like, they have one in Tampa, but I don't know, for you, it'd be like if it was in, I don't know, something really far, right? Like, I'm not going to try and think of it.
Altamont, where I work. There you go.
Yeah, like out by my mom or something like that, like out on the other side of Disney. So anyway, if you had the chicken sandwich, let us know if it's good or not, because I'm never going to try it. All right, let's jump right into it. A bunch of Florida State news, a bunch of things that we want to kind of note on and comment on and get, kind of give some takes and get people caught up. I don't think there's a lot of breaking news. I don't think there's a lot of things that are just going to blow people's minds with what we're going to talk about here today. But probably the biggest news and the biggest thing that happened, Jermaine Johnson taken in the first round. We really hear slips or maybe falls to 26. There was some speculation around him maybe going top 20, top 10, top 5 even by some people. But the Jets trade back up to get Jermaine Johnson, and he is a first rounder, Florida State's only draft pick of the weekend. We'll talk about some undrafted guys that did make some rosters. Made some mini camps in different places. But Jermaine Johnson, first round draft pick, made himself a lot of money by ending up in Tallahassee this year. And it was a really cool moment to see him end up going first round. Really, really neat and a cool moment for him. Somebody that gave so much to Florida State in his 1 year, played for a team that wasn't super, super good, but really kind of laid it all on the line and was pretty productive. So thoughts on Jermaine being our only draft pick, but a first rounder.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, honestly. I told my wife, hey, let's just watch the draft until Jermaine Johnson goes. So he might go as high as top 5, but he'll probably be top 10, top 15 for sure. And she got pretty upset with me because you know how long the draft gets when you get into the 20s. I'm like, oh, I get to see the Bucks pick. Oh, no, they traded their pick. But good for Jermaine, man. First round, like you said, we would have loved to see top 10. But still, first round, that's a lot of guaranteed money that sets himself up for, and his family's up for very nicely. Going to New York, I think that's a good fit for him. Just really excited. It was cool to see him and Coach Norvell there. And Jermaine, obviously, in 1 year, came to Florida State and just put his stamp on this program. That Miami game will live on in Florida State fans' history forever as one of the most dominant performances we've seen from a Seminole in a game like that. And again, not as high as we would have liked him, but the fact that he went first round sets himself up financially. That's really good for him and just cool to see. You're on mute, TJ.
Yeah, sorry, I hit the button. My kids are running through. We just, the timing of today's show is a little off. So my kids are like screaming and running through the thing, and I'm yelling at my wife and everything else. So it's fun over here. That's why I was on mute. So yeah, no, I mean, it was cool to see. And okay, so did you read Sinone's article? Sinone had an article in Mills 447 that kind of broke down why they think that some possible reasons why Jermaine fell. I never really so I would have been really shocked if he went top 5. And I think top 10 was kind of like, man, this would be really awesome. And then I really expected like in that 10 to 15 range. But Sinone kind of detailed some things, and I'll not give away like his entire article, but essentially the idea was Jermaine's a little bit older, right? As a fourth, fifth year senior. And there's a lot of, GMs draft for upside and draft for how long they can have somebody, and really just him being 2 years older than the other defensive linemen that are drafted. I mean, that's probably 2 less years that an NFL franchise is going to get out of him. He also kind of talked about how there's once one wide receiver went, which the Saints, shout out Jameis, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Once the Saints jumped up and got Olave as kind of like that second wave of wide receivers, teams then just started trading up for offensive players. And I think like 10 of the next 15 players were offensive at that point. And then when Jermaine got drafted, like the next 5 were defensive. So it was very much like, oh man, once a run started on offensive players or defensive players, like other teams, I don't want to say panicked, but thought like, oh no, I've got to draft. I've got to move up. I've got to draft what I need for this position. And it seemed like he was kind of unlucky on that side. Again, a little bit older, kind of makes sense. A team is not going to get as many miles out of him as they might out of a guy that's a couple of years younger. Just playing the percentages, obviously I have no idea. He could play 5 more years than somebody who went before him, but kind of makes sense from that perspective. But there was smoke around the Jets taking him in the top 5. There was smoke around the Jets taking him again in the top 15. And then it was the Jets who traded back up and got him. Did you see I love watching, and I don't know if you saw Jermaine's, or I saw the kid from Florida that got drafted by the Bills.
Elam,
Kyrie Elam. I saw a bunch of them, but I love the videos that they take of like kids getting drafted and getting the call from the coach and the GM and their families around them, and they're so excited, even when they are
especially
rivals.
James
like,
Cook,
whatever,
right? You see that one?
Yeah, James was awesome. Yeah, like I love that stuff. Dalvin was going nuts.
James Jermaine was
really cool too. James didn't look happy.
No, James did not look
happy. I saw like a video from behind of that.
Yeah,
one.
so Dalvin was going nuts.
On the team. Yeah, I saw Dalvin going crazy.
But to your point, you mentioned the article about Sonone. That does make sense because you watch the drafts, and when one team makes a somewhat unexpected move, it can shake the entire round out. We saw that work out to Christian Ponder's benefit when he got drafted. Right, they had 4 quarterbacks in the top 10, and people were just panicking like, we need a quarterback. The Vikings took him. So either way, like we said, first round is first round, and that's a lot of money. And I think he's already got he's not going to be your typical rookie, right? Because he wasn't like a college player here. He was like a professional at Florida State, how he operated, how he spoke to the media, how he went about his business. I have no doubt he's going to succeed at New York. And I think, like you said, he's a little older, but I think he could do a solid, 5-8 years in the league.
What's crazy, just talking about New York from that perspective, the Jets and the Giants had the 2 best drafts to me. Like, okay, all right, let me back that up some. The Jets and the Giants had the best first rounder too. Like I was not following it all day yesterday. Like I used to be really into the draft and I'd watch every pick and but I just don't care now anymore. Like I couldn't even tell you. I don't think I could tell you 3 people the Bucs drafted. Like I couldn't
tell anyone they drafted.
Yeah, like I just
all this weekend.
Okay, so how about my buddies that were at the draft party on Thursday night? And
that's a brutal
late round pick because the Bucs played well last year. And then you're there all night just for them to trade it away. There almost should be like a rule against that. Like if you not a rule against it, but like I don't know. You gotta. I mean, I get it. Like if you're going to get more value, but if you throw a draft party. Like you can't not have a pick that night. Can't like
imagine being like
especially or like you got to like talk to the NFL and say like, hey, we just got the 33rd pick. Like just let us make this tonight. Like we're gonna announce it. We won't officially make the pick until tomorrow, but we're gonna announce who our pick is tonight so that the people at the party. Like I don't know, that's terrible. I could not imagine. It's a free event, so I don't feel that bad. But like still, you go there for 4 hours, 5 hours, and you're just like. See ya. No pick.
Yeah. I mean, it's a free event, like, because I'm a season ticket holder, so we got invited. I'm like, I'm not going to Tampa. I wouldn't go down the street for a draft party for the 27th pick. but they use it to sell like a bunch of stuff. They try and sell season tickets and a bunch of merch and everything. Imagine, meeting the sales rep and getting talked into season tickets, getting all excited about the pick, and then you don't get one that day. That would have been brutal. But the only reason I was up for
the season tickets are all sold out, so they didn't.
Yeah, the only way I was up to see the pick was because I was waiting to see Jermaine get drafted. Then I saw us traded away, so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to bed now.
Yeah, once I saw Jermaine get drafted, I was like, I have like 5 or 6 picks left. Like I'll stay up for the rest of this, like at this point. But no, really cool for Jermaine. Really happy for him. The Jets, like I said, had a great draft. I thought the Giants had a great draft. So hopefully the Jets are good. I mean, they're in a very tough division. We mentioned Elam going to Buffalo, which makes that defense even better. But I think the Jets, that division's tough. And I think the Dolphins are kind of up and coming too. Like, even though they're not great, I mean, they're a solid like 7-10 team. Yeah. I hate that there aren't 16 games. Like, I think it should go back down. But they're a solid.
There's no easy win in the East.
The Patriots are always tough.
It's not like we have the Falcons. Like, we chalk that up, right? But there's none
Falcons
of that
and Panthers
for anybody.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully he balls out for like 3 years and then goes somewhere else. I was hoping the Saints would take him.
Yeah,
I thought he'd be really good in New Orleans. Like, just go to a good, because he was kind of in that range, or the Vikings. I thought the Vikings would be really good for him. I think he's from Minnesota, if I remember that correctly, or like from. Yeah. So I think that'd have been really cool. So all right, so shout out Jermaine Johnson, really really cool. He will, like, those 1-year guys are kind of few and far between. Obviously, think about Walter Jones. I mean, I don't remember Walter Jones because 90s and. It wasn't like an offensive line stand in the late 90s, but or mid to late 90s. But you think about like Walter Jones being there, and like there's a lot of one-year guys that kind of come in, and maybe you remember them, maybe you don't. You kind of like hear about them later, like, oh yeah, that guy. Jermaine Johnson will be an absolute legend in FSU history forever. For not only, like you just mentioned, the way he carried himself off the field, the way that he played on the field, obviously, like defensively winning the Miami game single-handedly, nearly delivering the Clemson win, just pretty impressive stuff, and couldn't be happier for him. Absolutely deserves it. Made the most of an opportunity. We always talk about this. We talk about with the portal. The portal is such a crapshoot, right? Like, it is either you're typically going like 50% in the portal. And that's why they take like 10 guys, because 5 of them are going to produce and 5 aren't. An absolute story of a guy who took an opportunity in the portal, literally turned down a national championship to go out and do what was best for his career. And it certainly paid off. So shout out Jermaine Johnson. Super, super happy for him. A really nice guy. I got to chat with him a little bit in Charlotte for the ACCs. And he was super nice. He was super respectful. I wish I would have been recording. I think somebody up there would. I'll have to rip somebody's video or whatever. But I remember asking him about, the Miami rivalry and getting to play in that and stuff. And he was excited about it. And so anyway, great guy, excited for him. And another first round no. We didn't have to wait for the 7th round to see our drafted player get drafted. So some other guys did make some rosters, or it got invited to some training camps, some mini camps, things like that. And it's kind of all the same at this point, trying to fight for a roster spot. Corbin to the Giants. That's one that's interesting to me. I think that Corbin has some upside. I don't know that he's a surefire lock to make the roster, but I do know that running back is the position that translates easiest from the college ranks to the NFL. It's, it's a lot of like run through that hole, right? So if he can have a good camp, I mean, hopefully he can make that roster. I really like Jashaun Corbin a ton. I got a chance to interact with him when he got to FSU, and he was just very respectful, very nice kid. I wish the absolute best for him. Not that I don't wish the best for all of our other kids, but I think he probably has the best chance to make a roster. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I think so, especially strictly by his position, right? Being a running back, that anyone who plays fantasy football knows, but like week 8, week 10, you're trying to find any running back you can, even looking for guys that might get called up for a practice squad or anything. I definitely think if he doesn't make the Giants roster, I definitely think he ends up on a practice squad somewhere, and he will. I fully expect him to see game action in the NFL this season. I think he's not elite at anything. He's no Dalvin or anything, but he's a productive back, and he got very few negative yard carries. And he, makes the most of what his ability has for him. So I definitely think he'll have a chance. I don't ever see him being, a true RB1 getting, 15 carries a game, but I think there's a spot for him somewhere on an NFL roster.
It'd be really cool if he could. Again, somebody who came in and I even from that first Notre Dame game this year, what did he break off that 75-yard run? And then seemed to do that like every other week. He'd break off like a 60-yard touchdown run or just do something absolutely incredible. So another one, probably the second best chance to make a roster, though this one seems somewhat tough just thinking about how good that roster is. But Keir Thomas to the Rams, that obviously came here, didn't get the notoriety, didn't get the, as much attention as Jermaine did, but somebody that was absolutely monumental in this defense and this team having the improvement that they had over the last year. Keir Thomas to the Rams. That team is absolutely loaded. Obviously, they're the best in the league. But Keir got an outside shot at making a roster. I mean, what are his what percentage you putting that at?
I put him right around 40% or so. I think, the problem with him is the NFL probably looks at him as more of a tweener. He's probably playing outside in the NFL, but, he played a lot of defensive tackle at Florida State. He was good in both positions at Florida State, but in the NFL, you don't have guys that are just moving around. You have to be good at one of those specific positions, especially up front. I think he's got a decent shot. Like you said, it may not be with the Rams, but I think he's got a chance. We'll see.
Yeah, no, if he can have a good camp, good preseason, hopefully he'll get picked up by somebody. I really liked Keir Thomas. I mean, he was massive for this defense too. Jermaine Johnson got all the notoriety, all the credit, all of that. Keir Thomas was really, really good for this defense. Yeah. And so best of luck to him. A couple other ones, Andrew Parchment to Carolina. I don't know. I don't know that he's got a great chance to make it, but Carolina's not very good. I don't really know how deep their wide receiver room is, but you were talking about automatic wins. I don't know. I think the Panthers are just as bad as the Falcons. In fact, the Panthers worry me less than the Falcons because at least the Falcons have Matt Ryan, who could get hot at any time and is an actual quarterback, whereas the Panthers, Cam Newton, was just an absolute shell of himself last year. So the Panthers are not good. Who are you taking right now on a neutral field, Panthers and Falcons? I'm probably taking the Falcons still because Mariota could just get hot.
The Falcons will have Matt Ryan. He went to Indianapolis.
Well, I was saying last year. I thought the Panthers.
Oh yeah.
But even this year, I think Mariota's better. Who did they pick up? Darnold?
I think it was Mariota, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Falcons.
I'm not
a Falcons
fan. I don't know.
Who did the Panthers pick up?
I forget who they got picked up also.
So anyway, I think the Panthers are the worst team in the division. I don't even think that's very close. So, Parchment to Carolina, Devontae Love-Taylor invited to minicamp at Tampa and Baltimore. Is that right?
He was invited to both. I think I saw this morning that he's going to go to Tampa's minicamp.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
And then I also saw Chris Nee reported that Jordan Wilson has accepted a minicamp invite for the Bengals with an intent to sign there. So give them a shot. Check that out. So a few guys that are going to get their chances in minicamp through workouts, kind of see what can happen. Fingers crossed. Love to see it. What do you think this draft says about where FSU's roster is at?
I think it says that, we've had
or was that,
Yeah, I think it's just the product of, Jimbo leaving, Willie Taggart coming in, and then Mike Norvell. So having 2 transition classes in 3 years with also Jimbo leaving. Mike Norvell's really just had to patchwork this roster. And, we've obviously been extremely active in the transfer portal and continue to have to be that way. But I think it just shows where Florida State is as a program right now, where we're not getting those elite guys that are surefire NFL players, save a Sam McCall that we got in. I think AZ Thomas has a really good chance. Obviously, I think he could be a first round pick. So I think when you look at the roster and you think about who could play in the NFL, when I look at it, it's mostly the younger guys right now, because we just haven't done what we've had to do in the past few years from a recruiting standpoint or development. So, I think it's encouraging that the people that I look at for potential NFL prospects are younger guys, but is Mike Norvell going to run out of time? I think he's got to improve the roster this year. Obviously you lose Jermaine, you lose Kier, but I think overall the roster is better. They just don't have that huge difference maker. But yeah, I think it just shows where the program is right now. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, just not a lot of star power, right? Like just, and we trolled them and joked about it too, but same thing for Miami, very young rosters where you got rid of a lot of guys. I mean, there were a lot of guys in that 2018, 2019, and the 2020 class. Norvell's, was that when he came in? 2020 was his first class, right? Yeah. And the 2020 class that were like projects, reaches, Willie guys, just a bunch of reasons why the guys that were in those draft classes that would now be getting drafted are not there. Like there's nobody there from those classes to get drafted. They've either gotten booted from the program, asked to leave, weren't very good, were projects that didn't work out. They were reaches, and a lot of them are gone. Like there just aren't. I mean, I don't know. If you look back at the, FSU 2019 recruiting class, and you look at like the top end of that recruiting class, I'm trying to find 247 because I certainly don't want, the rivals one here. 247, 2019. This is great live radio, but they'll live. Football recruiting commitments. This is good. I think this would be good to look at. 2019. I've heard Bud do this on the show before, so I don't even feel that bad. So that 2019 class, okay, Akeem Dent still here, likely ends up making getting drafted next year. So
I think so. Yeah, I think
that's a good one. Brendan Gant behind him, Travis J, Dante Lucas, Quayshawn Fuller just entered the transfer portal. Julian McCray, Kalen DeLoach still here, has a chance.
It's a hit. Yep.
Raymond Woody, Curtis Fan, Renardo Green, Derek McClendon, Darius Washington, Jarvis Brownlee, no longer here. Drew Thompson, Kayvon Glenn, Ira Henry, Jay Williams, Maurice Smith. So, 2019, you've got 2 hits out of your 2019 class. They're going to work out. Then you look at Norvell's first class, Demore Tate, Brian Robinson, Chubba Purdy, Green McKnight, no longer here. Toa Philly, still here, has a chance. Don't know that I'd call him a really solid candidate to get drafted or not, but we'll see. Steven Dix, Ja'Kai Douglas, Corey Wren, McCluster, Robert Scott, we'll see. There just haven't been those guys. And then you got a 21 class that's just, probably has some guys in it that may or may not have a chance. I don't know. Probably not. But we'll see. Yeah, there are some guys in there that'll have a chance. But yeah, there just hasn't, the guys from those classes just weren't good enough to get drafted, or they didn't work out, or they're no longer with the program, or they've gone on and done other things. And so, I think it kind of makes sense. Now, you look at, if we had to, I think somebody asked on the spaces right now, who are the most likely guys to get drafted right now on the roster? Robert Cooper,
younger guys.
Well, or fifth-year seniors from Jim most of the time.
So Cooper, Fabian Lovett, I think, has a chance.
I don't know. Do any offensive linemen? Does Gibbons have a chance? Again, transfer, so it doesn't really matter.
Unlikely for Gibbons.
McCall, Thomas.
Yeah, the younger
Robinson,
guys,
Jamie Robinson has a chance.
Yeah, another transfer.
Yeah. So the guys that have a chance outside of Cooper, Lovett.
Lovett's a transfer too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So outside of Cooper and Dent, there aren't a lot. Yeah, I'm probably missing somebody. Somebody will write me in and be like, "Oh, how could you forget this guy?" Sorry about that. Even if I don't know what his future plans are. Even if Travis was to go, he'd be a transfer. I don't. If he had a great year or something and went on. But then outside of that, who else are your guys that you think might really go out and get drafted? I don't think there's a lot. They're either really young or transfers or whatever. So I don't know. I think that is kind of indicative of where the roster has been. Now, I think the roster is in a better place today. This is a good one. Would you take this roster today or the 2017 roster heading into before Frenchie got hurt?
2017. I mean, there's still a lot of talent on that team. They
Yeah.
just fell apart. I don't think talent was the problem with that 2017 team. I think if you had an fully engaged Jimbo with 2017 Florida State playing this version of Florida State, I'm leaning 2017 at that point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't think that that's really a question. I think the only, not the only. No, you're right. 2017 because Derwin was on that team. Like I'm forgetting that. Like that team was loaded.
Still some players then.
Yeah, Derwin was
Cam
on
Akers
that team.
was on the team.
Yeah, 2017. Was that his freshman year? That was his freshman year.
Yeah.
Terry, FSU football roster.
They were number 3 in the country heading into the season.
Yeah, that team. DJ Matthews was on that team.
He was a really good college receiver. Yeah.
Levante Taylor. McFadden was on that team. Matthew Thomas was on that team. If he's there and checked in, Stanford Samuels.
Ryan Izzo was on that team.
Josh Sweat was on that team. George Campbell. J. Rob was on that team. Kando was on that team. Yeah, it's probably not close.
Yeah, it's a loaded roster.
Ted Terry, Alden Tate. We even had Logan Tyler was on that team. So, Marvin Wilson was on that team. Nasruddin was on that team. How did we lose so much? But anyway, yeah, I mean,
Hampshire was so good. Man,
your quarterback going down is, that's a big reason. So having to put in a non-early enrollee freshman. So, but okay, so outside of that team, this is the roster that I think is the most. I don't know if it's the most talented or not. I think this is the most complete roster that Florida State has had since 2017. I'd really have to go back and look at different rosters because, like, Cam was on the next year. Cam was on the 20. Like there was talent on those other teams too. But I think this is the roster.
18, 19, and 20, the offensive line was so bad that they just didn't have a chance. They couldn't put drives together because they were so bad. I think, like you mentioned, there's less holes. So we'd still love we'd love a true offensive tackle that can come in and start left tackle. We'd love another receiver due to the Winston Wright situation. Probably love the edge rusher, but overall, you're not looking, man, we need to get 3 offensive linemen in the portal. We're not in that spot anymore.
Christmas and Noddy were on that team. Brian Burns was on that team. Oh, my goodness. Burns was obviously I'll give him a little. No, he was a sophomore that year. So, yeah, I don't know how that team was so bad. 6-6. Yeah. 5-6 until Jimbo was out here. Then we won 2. So, anyway, but this is probably the roster that I'm most excited about since then, right? I think it's the most complete. There's enough kind of going in the right direction. Let me stop looking back at the past because I'm just going to be upset about it. Quayshawn Fuller hits the portal. Did we not talk about that last week? I thought we talked about that last week.
I was sure we hit on that. I mean, it was just a note. We don't have to go in depth about it. I think it's, a little bit surprising, but again, at the end of spring, when those exit interviews happen, it seems like Mike Norvell is very honest with where the players stand, whether Norvell's opinion is right or wrong, but it is what it is. You obviously wish him the best. And just the latest portal for Florida State.
Yeah. Today is the deadline. It is May 1st. Players have to be in the portal by today to be able to transfer. If not, they have to sit out a year. I assume they could still get a waiver from the NCAA. Like if something kind of crazy comes up, you have like a death in the family or, something negative happens at your school. Like the NCAA is, or if you're just a star athlete, like if you're just a star athlete and you want to transfer somewhere else. I mean, remember what was the tiny kid from Ohio State that went down to Miami a couple years ago?
From Ohio State? Oh, Tate Martell. Yeah.
Tate Martell. Yeah. Like he just, if you're a star or a 5-star,
Justin Fields.
Just give you a transfer. No big deal. So anyway, today is the deadline for that. So could be a crazy day. I haven't seen anything come across the timeline just yet. You'd think that, by it's 1:00 now, you'd kind of start to have some of that stuff out, but haven't seen anything just yet, but kind of keep an eye on that. If we get through tomorrow, relatively certain that most of our guys here on the roster will be around, especially if they're impact guys, because they're not going to want to sit out another year.
So I think today's the deadline to submit it, and then you have a 24, 48-hour waiting period where the coaches can try and re-recruit you and bring you back in. So I think by Tuesday morning or Wednesday, we'll know for sure, who's truly going. And not to say that someone may not get upset in the summer and transfer, but they'll have to sit out at that point. So that's why today's deadline is important, because if you submit your paperwork at least today, you are eligible to play next year. If you do it tomorrow, you're gonna have to sit out a year unless you get a waiver like TJ was talking about. But the NCAA, I mean, what do they even do anymore?
Yeah, absolutely nothing. I saw Mark Emmerich's retiring, so that's interesting. But I don't want to crap on the NCAA today just because I'm in a good mood. So Norvell's planning a second mega camp. 22 programs have confirmed to attend on June 5th. May is kind of some doldrums. It's kind of low news, not as exciting, not as much going on. We appreciate you hanging out with us if you are. But June's going to get pretty hot and heavy. That's what she said. On recruiting, it'll be pretty wild around here. So do you like these mega camps? Do you not care? Kind of open.
I think it's a great idea, because you're bringing in other college coaching staffs, inviting them there and building those relationships. And Mike Norvell has a pretty good track record when it comes to hiring assistant coaches. So camps like this are a good idea. And I think, you're obviously not going to bring Clemson, Miami, or Florida, but I saw Colorado's coming. I think Baylor's coming. So other Power 5 programs that are coming, and I just don't see how that can be a bad thing at all. So I think it's a good opportunity, and it's great because you're going to get a lot of talented high school football players. And you're going to get some guys that may be more group of 5 talent that will have coaches there who can see them. So I think it's a great opportunity for everybody involved. And honestly, the kids might be the biggest winners, because whether you're, a low level group of 5 guy or, a 5-star, you can come to this camp and there's going to be coaches there that are going to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So another little bit of news, actually, before we get to that, let me shout out Garnet and Gold. They have been with us for the last several months, and you guys need to go check them out online as they start to get in the new stuff for the fall. When the Nike drop happens, you guys are going to want to be all over that. Use our code NOSLAW, NOSLAW. You get 15% off right now on anything you buy outside of autograph stuff and NIL stuff. We want to make sure that people that are benefiting off of their autographs and their NIL their funds are not being taken away from them. I will say, though, use your code on the Vault stuff or the Nike stuff, whatever you want from that's not NIL, and then go get those softball shirts, because those have sold out, I think, at least once now. They just got to reorder in, so you need to get them quickly. No slaw. It's not going to save you any money on the softball stuff, but buy something in addition to it and support Kaylee Mudge, Sydney Sherrill, and the softball team's NIL efforts. Garnet Gold is family owned and operated. They've been FSU supporters for since the 70s, and you should be shopping with them as opposed to, Fanatics, Alumni Hall, these other stores that are owned by Gators and people from Texas and here, there, and everywhere. Absolutely support Garnet Gold. GarnetGold.com, code NOSLAW, NOSLAW. Shouldn't be shopping anywhere else if you're a Florida State fan. Graduation this weekend. I saw over 70 FSU athletes graduated, student athletes graduated. Really, really cool to see. There were some notable ones that we've had here on the show. Petra from women's tennis graduated. Jalen Howell from soccer graduated. I'm not going to keep doing this because I'm going to leave people out. I'm going to feel bad about it. But those two graduated, and we'll stop there so I don't screw this up. Yuji Zhao graduated, who scored the game-winning penalty kick for women's soccer in the national championship. And there were a host of others as well. A couple of big ones. Football had a few. I saw Akeem Dent did, but the two highlights, or the two big ones that people saw, obviously Sydney and Mac Leonard and some other folks on the softball team did that we've had on. But Jordan Travis and this podcast's favorite hero, Jameis Winston, both graduated this weekend. It was cool to see Jameis go back. It's been 7 years since he graduated, but obviously, he's got a full-time job or two. And being a parent of two and a starting quarterback in the NFL for 6 of the 7 years that he's been gone, pretty impressive for him to get that done and finish up his degree, something that he promised his parents and himself that he would do. And so hats off to Jameis. It was cool to see him back on campus. I begged my wife to let me go up to the games this weekend, and heard he was hanging out like where we would have been hanging out at the baseball game. And so anyway, not super thrilled that I didn't end up going, but Anyway, it's all good. Shout out to Jameis and JT for graduating, and all the student athletes who graduated this weekend.
Yeah, and especially with Jameis, because obviously he's got money that, he has no financial concerns the rest of his life. His kids are set pretty much at this point. But I think it just shows that the mentality, the character of Jameis Winston. Again, he doesn't need this degree, but like you mentioned, he promised his parents he would do it. He made that promise to himself, and he got it done. It's 7 years later, but who cares? That's awesome that he came back and finished something that he started, which again, I think speaks to his character as an individual and the growth he's seeing as a man. So very happy for him and Jordan Travis. That's cool too. I wonder if he'll take the Matt Leinart route and just do the 1 credit hour ballroom dancing this year and just go all in on football, which would be awesome. But knowing him and his brother, I have a feeling he's going to go for a master's degree because again, he's another high achiever. So 2 very great representatives of Florida State.
Yeah, it was cool to see the pictures of both of those guys shared, and kind of the past and then the present of FSU football. Excited for both those guys and their families and what that means to them, and really, really neat to watch. I followed James's dad on just about everything, and obviously he's been on here before, and he was kind of celebrating all weekend, so it was cool to see for sure. John Butler testing the NBA waters, not fully locked in though, right? Like he could certainly come back.
Yeah, so he was one of 284 players to put their name on the draft entry list, but he's not fully committed to the point where he cannot come back. I think that'd be a really huge blow to Florida State's team next year. The NBA guys love him. They love his game. They know he's a developmental guy still, but some think he can come around a lot quicker than originally projected out of high school. Like I said, I think he would have a chance to make some noise in the ACC next year and have a really big season for Coach Ham. So he's going to get the feedback and, talk to his people, and we'll see. But just something to keep an eye on. I don't know if I'd put what percentage I'd put it on. It's all going to be contingent on the feedback he receives from the NBA guys to where he may potentially get drafted. So like I said, it would be a big blow, but he's not gone yet.
And then some more basketball news. Ham hired an assistant to replace CY.
Yeah, Coach CY went to Mizzou, so RJ Barsh, excuse me. Hamilton hired him from Boise State. He was on Boise State's staff this year, where they went to the NCAA tournament and set program records for total wins, conference wins, and consecutive wins. They won the Mountain West, so I think Ham has probably had his eye on him for a while. And obviously, Stan Jones is the lifelong companion, that kind of the Mickey Andrews to Bobby Bowden, but Florida State had to make a hire, and it sounds like a pretty good one. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything about this guy's history, but the brief research I did, it seems like another solid hire.
Women's basketball. Speaking of transfer, women's basketball brought in one of the highest rated and best ranked transfers out there. Coach Brook and the team added Jasmine Massengill, who played for Kentucky last year. She was a graduate who comes to the Seminoles this year to play a season. Last year, she started and played for Kentucky, averaging 33.5 minutes a game, 7 points, 3.5 rebounds, and almost 5 assists on the SEC champion Kentucky Wildcats. So highly sought after transfer. I know that we talked with Coach Brook about the portal just the other day. She had some news she didn't share with us just because she wanted to make it official, but the news came out, I think just yesterday, right? Yes. That they added Jasmine Massengill. So big pickup for them. Excited to see what they continue to do. If you missed our interview with Coach Brook, go check that out. It's on, wherever you're listening to this, watching this, scroll back a little bit and you'll find it. Trey Cunningham absolutely dominated again, ran a 13.10 in 110-meter hurdles. Fourth fastest in college history. The track team had a really good day yesterday. I saw they broke a bunch of records. You can obviously go to FSU or Seminoles.com and click on the track team to kind of get caught up on everything there. But they had a really, really good day, and Trey Cunningham continues to just amaze by being incredible, like all the time.
Yeah, he was great to talk to, but yeah, every time like there's an outdoor event, like I find myself looking up the 110-meter hurdles just because I want to see what he can do. But yeah, it's just an elite athlete.
So, all right, I'll go around the horn real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Try and finish up right here by 1 o'clock. We might do it just right. We'll see how fast I can do this. So yesterday, beach volleyball won their 6th straight CCSA conference championship. They beat number 6 LSU and number 2 TCU on Saturday to win the title. Really, really interesting match in which they led all 5 of the duels that were happening. They ended up dropping one due to injury and that they had a big lead in. So that was kind of unfortunate, but that was the only set. That was the only point that TCU would score. FSU would go on to win 3-1. The last one remained unfinished, but Florida State was leading in that one as well. They had lost to TCU earlier in the week. Got to play them back again after going through the elimination bracket. Really, really impressive for Florida State to come back, avenge that loss, beat TCU. I hate that rule, by the way. I was texting Brett from beach volleyball the other day, and I hate how, like in anything else, it's double elimination. You have to lose twice. In this, you get through the losers bracket and you get to the championship. That's a one-match thing. That screwed us in 2018 when we lost to UCLA in the national championship, but it helped us this weekend because we lost to TCU once, beat them once, but we beat them in the championship, and it wasn't double elimination. It had been really, really tough to have to then go back out and beat TCU again, especially with the injury going down the player, but it worked out in our benefit this time, so maybe that's the way to go and the way to get through it. Shout out to them for winning the 6th straight conference championship of the CCSA. They head to Gulf Shores, Alabama on Wednesday as the 5 seed to take on 12 seed Cal Poly at 3 p.m. in the NCAA championships. I think all of that is on, if I'm not mistaken, I think all of that is on like ESPN. So check that out, or like watch ESPN or wherever. So each individual court of every duel will be streamed live on ESPN3. So check that out. 3 p.m. on Wednesday. They get started, and then they'll play again on Friday, win or loss. Softball swept another ranked team, winning a pair of 2-1 victories against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was 7-0 going into Tallahassee in 1-run games, and they left Tallahassee at 7-2. Chloe Culp was the hero on Friday night as she hit a 6-inning home run to center field, which is the difference in the game. They take on UF this week in the midweek matchup, then head to NC State to finish up the season. I can't believe they only have 4 games left, but they're number 3 in the country right now. I'd imagine they stay there. Looks like Virginia Tech's going to sweep their series as well. So I don't imagine anybody moves around too much, but I do expect Florida State to finish up the year. I would not be shocked at all if they go 4-0 to finish up the year, but even if they go like 3-1, I think it'll be a really, really strong finish to the season, and they'll start the ACC championship shortly after that. Baseball won the first 2 games of their series. They absolutely beat the heck out of TCU on Friday night. Had to come from behind last night. Logan Lacey hit a home run that was the exclamation mark after Devin Travis and Sherman Johnson shouted him out on the podcast last week. So go check that out for sure. But good to see Logan Lacey not only get back on track, but the boys win the first 2 games of the series. They're up 5-2 right now. So hoping they can get that sweep. It'd be a huge, huge sweep against a ranked opponent. Both men's and women's tennis find out their postseason fate at 6 and 6:30 p.m. respectively. I think both will end up as 2 seeds just based on how they end up this season. Maybe a 3 seed somewhere. I don't expect either one to host, but we'll kind of see how all that goes. Women's golf, it was announced this week, will be at home May 9th through 11th to host the Tallahassee Regional. You can find all this and more at doublefriesnoslaw.com. Click on the news and notes. Mike Ferguson does a great job of keeping you updated with the daily news and notes. He calls it the daily sauce on what's going on around Florida State. Whew, I need a breath. Richie, you got any shout outs before we get out of here?
No shout outs this week, man.
All right. I don't know that I have any shout outs either. So I think that's all for us. Hopefully the baseball team can get this dub. Excited to find out where tennis is playing. Excited to find out what's going to happen with beach this week in the NCAA championships. If you guys missed any part of this, it's recorded on iTunes, YouTube. We put it up on Facebook. It's just about everywhere. Hit the share button. We certainly would appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, hanging out with us for a little bit. We'll be back next week to talk all things FSU. Until then, go Noles.